And welcome in week 9 edition of the Cash Process. I'm your host, Ben Hostler. We are here to preview the week 9 NFL DFS slate, recap week 8. It was a profitable week 8 for me. Felt like I played really, really good in tournaments, just short of a monster week, but profitable nonetheless. Should have late swapped my cash team, and I didn't, which cost me a win there. But for tournaments, if you guys watched the Sunday morning stream, Matt hopped on there with me, and we were talking a little bit about just our builds and stuff. So I had a DAC team. If you read my article, I highlighted everybody I thought that I would play this week. Had a DAC and CD team that did good, and had a Joe Burrow team that did very good. Joe Burrow team scored almost 200 points on DraftKings. Of course, it was my lowest entry team of the week. If I would have had that and some of the other stuff I played, I would have absolutely smashed. But I'm not going to complain about making money. This is why it's important. Always check out my article on Fridays. Tune into the stream on Sundays and get kind of my final thoughts on things. We were kind of talking about, we talked about the Cowboys a little bit on that stream. We talked about Rashid Shaheed, who was a big piece of my Joe Burrow team. I thought it was clear by the time we got to Sunday that the Ravens were going to be so high owned that if you weren't playing Lamar Jackson on a team, I thought that you should play some Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards was on both of my best tournament teams that did really good. So overall, it was a profitable week, but I feel like I've been really tuned in. I think that I'm gonna have a really big second half of the season here. I feel like for a few weeks now I've been playing really good. I feel really tight in my process, and I feel like some big weeks are coming. I came on here last week and I kind of capitulated and said that, going into the week I wasn't on any Mahomes stuff and I should have swapped. I'm rescinding that capitulation. Patrick Mahomes he hasn't been Patrick Mahomes for fantasy this year because they don't have the receivers to throw to. And the way that teams defend him, like they just don't really give him anything deep. They sit back, they make him take these like short underneath throws, and it just hasn't been great for fantasy. So he did go off against the Chargers, and I came on and I was like, oh, I should have did that. No, I shouldn't have done that. He has gone off 1 week only this season. And of course, it was the 1 week that he kind of had some ownership in DFS because it was the only good game on the slate. And people were they were rewarded for doing that. But I'm sticking with, you should not have played that at ownership. You saw what he did against the Broncos. Like everyone's like, oh, he's going to dominate the Broncos. The Broncos are dead. Look exactly what happened. So I'm sticking with it. I feel like I've been making the right plays. This past weekend got really, really close to some big tournament scores. So I think the big weeks are coming. If you want to sign up, dfskarma.com/pricing. Now would be a good time to sign up. I feel very good with my NFL process. You get all sports for one price. So you get some NBA stuff going on too. And of course, we got the holidays coming up. We got the famous Thanksgiving DFS slate. We got Christmas NBA coming up after that. So tune in, dfskarma.com/pricing if you want access to my cores. Matt and I shared our core. We made a core together after the stream. We shared it in the Discord. It was a DAC stack. Anyone that tailed that made some money. With that being said, let's dive into week 9. This is a few weeks ago we came on here and we're like, oh, this is the worst slate ever. People will actually say this is the worst slate ever. Like there is just no good games. There's no high totals really. Like this is like the best game of the week is Philly Dallas, and it's like a divisional game. Like this is a ugly slate. It's only 10 games. The two best games are not on the main slate, which is Buffalo Cincy and Miami Kansas City. Like Miami Kansas City's in Germany, and then the other game's on Sunday night. So the two best games of the week are not on the main slate. So we're working with some scraps this week. So let's start talking about quarterback here. At the top, you have Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Look, same situation every single week. If you can spend up, those are the best options. I still think Jalen Hurts is safer than Lamar Jackson if you're going to pick one of them. But if you can spend up, if you have the salary, those are the guys. Justin Fields is not going to play this week. They've already announced that. Kirk Cousins, pour one out for Kirk Cousins. Feel bad about him getting hurt, but he's out. So there are some value quarterback options this week. You have Dak Prescott there at 6,500. Matt Stafford, I guess his status is up in the air at 63. So Quarterback is interesting. I mean, if you can get up to Lamar and Hurts, I think that's a fine build. If you can't, I mean, I could see people wanting to play Sam Howell at 5,800. They're going to see this 35 in the game log here. He's had multiple, even when he hasn't gone off 19, 18, like that's not going to kill you at 5,800. So I could see people wanting to play Sam Howell at 5,800. I could see people wanting to play Derek Carr at 5,700 against the Chicago Bears. I mean, he's had 3 straight 20 DraftKings point games. Chicago, not a good defense. And like I said, in cash games, 20 points is not going to kill you at 5,700. Daniel Jones is going to be back against the Raiders. I mean, he's just been horrible, but for tournaments, I might consider that. I want to drop down a little bit farther here. So in terms of the value, guys, Jaren Hall is going to start for the Vikings. I don't really think Jaren Hall is very good. So that's a pass for me if he's going to be chalky. I hope people play him because I'm just not going to play any Jaren Hall. You have Desmond Ridder at 4,800. I think you could consider Desmond Ridder this week. I know he's horrible. I'm not going to consider him in cash because there's one other guy I'm going to talk about, but I just want to mention Desmond Ridder has been good at home. You can see here, a 29er, a 22 at home. Minnesota's defense definitely you can get loose against. So at 4,800, yeah, you can definitely consider Desmond Ridder this week. The guy I want to bring up is Mac Jones. This is gross. I know people will hate on this, but it's the state of this weeknight slate. I think I'm going to be playing some Mac Jones this week. 4,900. We've seen a 28-point game from him against Philly. In week 1, we've seen a 19-point game from him against Buffalo 2 weeks ago. I mean, Washington is the best possible matchup you can get for a quarterback. They play fast. Their secondary and defense is horrible. Now you also have to factor in they just traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So their pass rush has taken a huge hit here. $4,900 Mac Jones is my favorite play on this slate at quarterback. So you can keep your Jaren Hall, play him. Let the other people play him. Let the people that played Tony Pollard last week, they could play Jaren Hall. We will take Mac Jones at 4,900, my favorite play of the week. And then tournaments, yes, you can fire up some Ritter. Assuming he's good to go. Any of these mid-tier guys you can consider. I mean, this is just an egregious slate. Like the fact that I'm on here talking about Mac Jones is hilarious. But that's my favorite play this week. So quarterback, I mean, I'm dropping down to him or I'm getting up to Lamar or Hurts, to be quite honest with you. Any of these mid-tier guys, we can talk more about tournaments in my article and on the Sunday morning stream. Moving on to running back. Alvin Kamara, most expensive running back on the slate at 8,100. He continues to just go nuclear. Had multiple touchdowns for the first time all season last week against Indy. Another really strong matchup here at home against Chicago. Tough to argue. Anyone that plays Alvin Kamara in cash, I think it's a completely fine move. He's the best spend up. Saquon Barkley, I do think you could consider in cash games as well, but I think most people will just see this 36 rush attempts from last week and want to play him. But it's important to note that once Tyrod Taylor went out, Tommy DeVito is the worst quarterback I think I've ever seen. The guy played like a half of football, had negative passing yards. So they were just running the ball every single time. So I think this 36 rush attempts is a little lofty. With Daniel Jones back, he's still going to get fed, but I don't think we're going to see 36 rush attempts again from Saquon Barkley. So Alvin Kamara is a top spend up. You can definitely consider him in cash games. Tony Pollard will once again project well at 6,800. I told you guys on Sunday, me and Matt both came on the Sunday stream and we're basically like, we have 0 Tony Pollard on any of our lineups. And he scored 6.5 DraftKings points. So I know that there's people out there that were pawning off Tony Pollard as like the best play on the slate. Like, oh, you got to play a lot of Tony Pollard. I stay in my lane. I'm not here to talk down on any other people because he did project very well, but I just don't like the role that he's been in currently. Specifically, like he's not even getting all of the red zone looks, which I don't like. He had a different role the first 2 weeks than what he's been seeing in the past few weeks. So I didn't play him last week as chalk against the Rams at home. I'm not going to play him on the road in Philly. So no Tony Pollard for me this week. Alvin Kamara is the best spend up. Moving on down, I really don't like any of these mid-tier running backs this week. So one guy I want to bring up, Bijan Robinson, 6,100. This is getting to the range where I will consider using Bijan Robinson. When he was priced here, 8K, 79, 78, 77, you guys know I was playing zero Bijan Robinson. It's just too expensive for his role in this offense when they're not going to feed him. Now that he's down to 6,100 against Minnesota, now is when I'll start taking on that risk and considering him. So Bijan Robinson sticks out as a great play to me, especially against Minnesota in that matchup. I think you can play Ritter and Bijan together in tournaments. I think you can play Bijan in cash. Now at 6,100 is when we're getting to the range of when I will consider using him. Gus Edwards, look, he ran hot with 3 touchdowns. I'm going to probably cash out my poker chips on him. Like, I got that 29-point game from him. I'm happy. I don't need to go back to him. I'm not going to say you can't consider him because you can. Like, he's going to be the lead back still in this offense. He's getting 16, 14, 19 rush attempts. You can still consider him for sure, but I would play Bijan over him in cash games. Rachaad White at 5,600 again. Like, I still think Rachaad White is a good running back. I know people like to talk down on him. I still think he's a really good running back. He still has a very secure role. Houston, it's a pretty good matchup. 5,600. You can certainly consider Rachaad White one of my favorite cash game options right now this week. I think people may talk themselves into some Ramondre Stevenson this week. That's just more incentive for me to play Mac Jones stuff in tournaments. Don't love Ramondre this week. Prefer the Mac Jones. Now, you could play in a small field tournament. You could play Mac Jones and Stevenson together. But I prefer the passing attack, I think, to Stevenson. Kareem Hunt, I talked about him on last week's video. He did score again in the red zone, but they just have been rotating too many guys. Like, they're playing Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. So I think that's a little thin for cash. Darrell Henderson is gross. I don't know if he's going to break a slate, but in cash games, you don't need him to break a slate. He's only 5,100 here, coming off 13 or 11 DraftKings points games. He's still the lead back and still got 11.5 in a game where, I mean, the Rams were losing by 2 touchdowns almost immediately in that game. Like, they were never in the game. So Darrell Henderson at 5,100. Pretty good matchup, honestly, against Green Bay. You can attack Green Bay on the ground, so you can definitely consider him once again. I don't really want to mess around with any of this sub 5K stuff. Like, DeMercado might pop again. He was projecting well last weekend. Don't think I want to go there with Clayton Tune likely starting at quarterback. I didn't mention that at quarterback, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be Clayton Tune for the Cardinals, which eliminates all Cardinals from my interest, really, outside of tournament shots. Jaron Hall eliminates all, I guess, eliminates all Vikings for me. I guess we'll see by the time we get to the weekend where ownership shakes out and stuff. If it sounds like Kyler's going to miss this week and then he'll be back next week. If Kyler was in, I would consider him at 5,900. I will note that. If Kyler is in, I would consider him, but it sounds like it's going to be Tune this week and then they'll get back to Kyler next week. Moving on to receiver, I made him the cover boy last week. You guys know I was really excited to play A.J. Brown. He was on my Joe Burrow team. I had an A.J. Brown one-off there, 36 DraftKings points. He's the best current fantasy player right now with the role that he's in, and I'm going to play him again. 8,600, I don't see how you avoid A.J. Brown again. I mean, 131, 175, 127, 131, 137, 130 receiving yard totals over the last 6 games. Yeah. And Matt and I kind of noted that their offense was really struggling the first few weeks of the season under this new offensive coordinator. And the direct change that they made was right here against Tampa when they started feeding A.J. Brown, and they've won every game except for one since. So, yeah, I don't expect that role to change anytime soon. I will be playing him in cash games again this week. Cup, fine in tournaments. CeeDee Lamb, fine in tournaments. Devontae Adams, even with, it looks like Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. He had a good game with Aiden O'Connell. Like, can you convince me Aiden O'Connell's any worse than Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, I know the offensive line is in shambles, but Aiden O'Connell started this game here against the Chargers. He still got 13 targets, 8 for 75. Yeah, you can definitely still play Devontae Adams in tournaments if nobody wants to play him. But for cash, A.J. Brown is the top option for me. Adam Thielen's getting to the ceiling level price where I'm not going to be considering him much, but I can't argue the role here. He's going to project well again. I think Puka Nacua is going to be fine, so I don't think we need to mess around with that stuff. So let's drop on down here a little bit further. I would be excited to play Jordan Addison at 6K against Atlanta if Kirk Cousins was in at quarterback, but he's not. So that takes that away. Zay Flowers, I still think is fine for tournaments. He didn't do much as chalk last week, but 5,700, I still think he's a good play. Terry McLaurin, I think, is a great play and just an easy correlation on the other side with my Mac Jones stuff. So I'll be going back to Terry McLaurin this week. Josh Downs is my favorite low 5K option. He continues to have a really good role in this offense with Minshew at quarterback. Minshew throws to basically Downs and Pittman exclusively. Yeah, Downs has been really good. He's 5,200 compared to Pittman's price of almost 7K. So you can go right back to Josh Downs this week. I think he's a good option. Jahan Dotson had a really good game last week. I don't know, like this seems a little thin, but you guys know I'm a big Jahan Dotson fan, like going back to his time at Penn State. So I won't say no, but I prefer Josh Downs to Dotson in cash games. Christian Watson, I'm going to bring up, like, this is not typically the type of player that you would play in cash games because he's super just boom busty. But now that he's at 4,900, like, we're starting to get to the range where I'll consider him, like, similar to Bijan. Like, when the price comes down enough, I will consider him. So when he's 5,900, like, yeah, there's no way I'm playing him in cash games at 5,900. But when he's 4,900, like, he starts to get a little bit interesting. So I will be considering Christian Watson this week. I will be considering Michael Thomas this week at 4,700. Really safe role. I feel like Shaheed I love, but more of a tournament option than cash for me. Thomas, I think, is a little bit safer for cash games. And then the guy that I really like is Demario Pop Douglas here. Coming off 6 and 7 target games. No Kendrick Bourne now for the Patriots. I think he's their best receiver. He was the talk of Patriots training camp back in the spring and summer. The coaching staff really likes him. We have Devontae Parker in concussion protocol. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne went on IR, so he's not going to be playing. So Demario Douglas is going to be chalky this week. But yeah, 4K, I love it. You could even consider Juju for even cheaper, but that would be tournaments. Douglas is who I would play in cash games. And then I'll bring up Elijah Moore at 3,900 if you need a cheap guy for cash games as well. But yeah, favorite cheap options, Downs, Douglas for me this week. Moving on to tight end. No Travis Kelce on the slate, so we don't have to deal with that. We have Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson at the top. Andrews is fine for tournaments. Hawkinson fine for tournaments. I want to note that Hawkinson's been so good, except for the 1 week that I needed him to win a King of the Beach seat when he had 11 compared to this 19 and 20. So shout out to TJ for that one. But when they're not going to have Josh Dobbs at quarterback this week. They're going to have Jaren Hall. But when they switch to Josh Dobbs, I'm super interested in Hawkinson. Josh Dobbs has been feeding Trey McBride in Arizona. No reason for me to expect he won't feed TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota. So super interested in Hawkinson once Dobbs gets in at quarterback. I'm not going to play him in cash, but you can once again consider Taysom Hill here. He's had some really big games. They've really gone to him a lot in the red zone again. So I think Taysom Hill's a fine option. It's just a little high price for cash for me. On FanDuel, depending what he's priced, you can consider him in cash over there. Moving on down. I don't want to play Trey McBride this week after the big game because they're going to have Clayton Tune at quarterback. So David Njoku is my favorite option here in the mid-tier. Some really good games recently. He looked really explosive, looks healthy. 3,800 Njoku, definitely in my cash pool. Luke Musgrave, I think, will be in people's cash pool again. He just doesn't do anything, but he always projects well, so people will be considering him. Cade Otton, I think you could even consider, like, you know, if I got 9 or 8 from Cade Otton at 3K in cash, I would be like completely happy with that. So Cade Otton, I think you could consider for cash. Michael Mayer didn't do anything on Monday night, but no Raider did anything. So you can consider him again, but it looks to me right now for cash, Njoku or Otton, like whoever I can fit in, I'll plug them in. And we'll finish up with defense here. Per usual, looking to save some cash. So Giants, 2,300 against Aiden O'Connell. You can 100% bank that's going to be a chalky defense play. You can play that. Green Bay at home, if they're playing against the Rams, if Stafford's out and they're playing against like Brett Rippon or whatever, I would consider Green Bay for sure. New England at 2,900, you can definitely consider just because Sam Howell takes so many sacks. But I think you just plug in the cheapest option and move on. So since you guys tuned in, if you tuned into the video this long, thank you. Like the video on YouTube. It really helps us out. I'm going to try and let's look at like an early cash build. So if you tuned in this long, you're getting a little bonus. Let's do an early cash run. And we're putting Mac Jones in that thing. So let's go Mac Jones. Let's go Demario Douglas. Let's go Giants D. And let's see what we can fit in here. So, and we'll put Kate Otten in for fun as well at tight end. So we just put all the cheap guys in. We've got 7,100 left per position. You guys know we're putting AJ Brown in that build. You guys know. So we could do AJ Brown and Kamara because we don't have like a Jamar Chase or a Tyreek Hill to spend up at wide receiver. So I'm more inclined to do that. So let's go. Let's put Bijan Robinson in at 61, and let's put Alvin Kamara in. So that leaves you with 6,500 left for a flex and a wide receiver. So I can tell you guys right now, this is probably something that I would consider playing in cash. Now, if you wanted to, you could use another cheap option at receiver, and we could upgrade Mac Jones. Like if you want to get up to Jalen Hurts, like you can still easily make this work. So whether you want to play Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts, you can still make it work. Even with this lineup I just put in, even with Jalen Hurts, like you can easily find two cheap receivers and just play 4 receivers this week. So pretty clear week for me. I'm excited for this week. Make sure you head to dfskarma.com/pricing. Sign up. Like I said, I think we're going to have a really big second half of the season. So if you're watching on YouTube, like the video. It helps us out. Get in there, sign up, get in the Discord. Good luck in week 9, and I'll see you guys next week.